Today is Tuesday, March 25th. We're talking about what may have been a high-level national security breach by President Trump's own national security team. Also, details about even more tariffs set to take effect on what Trump is now calling Liberation Day. Plus, where temperatures are expected to break records this week, why people who wanted insight into their ancestry are now worried about their data, and the first national event at the Kennedy Center since its overhaul, how comedians address the elephant in the room. Those stories and even more news coming up. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. An apparent intel leak has raised some serious questions about whether some of America's most sensitive secrets are being mishandled. The White House confirmed Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth shared war plans on the chat app Signal. The group chat included the Vice President, the Secretary of State, the CIA Director, and the White House Chief of Staff. But what he didn't realize at the time was a top journalist from The Atlantic was also part of that chat. The news outlet's editor-in-chief says he was unexpectedly invited to the chat and able to follow the conversation for 2 days leading up to strikes in Yemen. He says the discussion was about war plans, like specific targets, weapons the U.S. would be deploying, and the exact schedule. Then he saw things play out just as the officials said they would. Now, several Defense Department officials say they're shocked that even if the reporter was not on the chat, the conversation should have only happened on a secure government channel. And some members of Congress on both sides of the aisle are demanding an explanation from the White House. They say military operations need to be handled with the utmost discretion and precision, only using approved secure lines of communication. But House Speaker Mike Johnson says he does not see the need for disciplinary action since he believes the Trump administration won't let it happen again. As for Hegseth, he's criticizing the reporter who was on the chat, saying he's a, quote, deceitful and highly discredited so-called journalist. This whole thing is also sparking backlash online, with even former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton reposting the article and commenting, "You have got to be kidding me." Remember, during the 2016 campaign cycle, President Trump said Clinton should have been locked up for using a private email server to communicate with her staff and others while she was Secretary of State. And Hegseth accused Clinton of betraying her country for convenience. Now, he's the one under review. To be continued. President Trump is once again threatening tariffs, now specifically calling them punishment. This time, it's 25% tariffs on all imports from any country that buys oil or gas from Venezuela. The U.S. will also impose new tariffs on Venezuela itself starting next week. The idea is to cut a major source of revenue for Venezuela's government, who has been at odds with the Trump administration over immigration. Plus, it would mean more pressure on China, which is a major buyer of Venezuelan crude. The thing is, though, the U.S. is among those countries that still buys oil from the South American country, and Texas-based Chevron is a key producer. So that won't actually change despite this new plan. Either way, President Trump says the plan is to impose the secondary tariffs on April 2nd, which he's calling Liberation Day. It's also the day the Trump administration plans to roll out import taxes to match the rates charged by other countries. Plus, that's when the U.S. plans to fully impose the 25% tariffs against Mexico and Canada, and possibly more. Trump says tariffs will bring manufacturing jobs to America. He cited some new investments, like just yesterday, Hyundai announced it would build a $5.8 billion steel plant in Louisiana. But critics and some economists say they worry about the tariffs causing an economic downturn and specifically higher inflation. So stay tuned. A filmmaker who just won an Oscar earlier this month was reportedly attacked in the Middle East. Hamdan Bilal is one of 2 Palestinian co-directors behind the Oscar-winning documentary No Other Land, portraying Israel demolishing Palestinian villages in the West Bank. Yesterday, his co-director wrote that a group of Israeli settlers in the West Bank beat Bilal until he had injuries to his head and his stomach. Then he says Israeli soldiers invaded the ambulance and took him away in a blindfold. No word from him since. Video posted online seems to back up that account, but the Israeli military says there was more to it, that alleged terrorists hurled rocks at Israeli citizens, and that rock throwing continued back and forth until Israeli troops intervened just to break up the confrontation. Either way, activists here in the U.S. are now calling for the Palestinian director's immediate release. There are new questions about the resilience of one of the world's busiest travel hubs. Remember, a fire at an electricity substation knocked out power to the area around Heathrow International Airport in London. So the airport ended up shutting down all day Friday, impacting hundreds of thousands of travelers. Well, yesterday, Heathrow defended its decision to close, especially in the wake of reports that it had enough power to operate. Airport officials explained by saying they had to ground flights because of the time it takes to switch to alternative power supplies, but that there are still lessons to be learned. Meanwhile, airlines are apparently upset about the length of last week's shutdown since they had to pay for the cost of refunding and rebooking customers, as well as putting stranded passengers up in hotels and covering food expenses. And one group that represents airlines says there could be a case for legal action. The UK government has also ordered its own investigation. More news ahead, but first, thanks to our sponsor, Skims. As a mom and someone who works from home, I always appreciate high-quality tees, both short and long sleeve. They are wardrobe essentials for me. I love them because I can dress them up or down and feel great no matter what I'm doing. But finding that perfect fit and feel can be a challenge. And yet, Skims t-shirts seem to hit the mark every time. You've heard me talk about Skims tees before, and now my newest get is the cotton jersey long sleeve t-shirt. I wore it the other day, and once again, I get the hype. There are so many dupes online, but nothing compares to the real thing. Other long sleeves right up or bunch at the waist, but this one stays put. And as always, Skims comes through with how the tee flatters my waist and just has a great fit and feel overall. See what I mean when you shop Skims tees, as well as their ultimate bra collection and more at skims.com and Skims LA flagship on Sunset Boulevard. After you place your order, be sure to let them know we sent you, select podcast in the survey, and be sure to select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. Now back to the news. This first full week of spring is feeling more like summer for millions of Americans, and today is expected to be the hottest day. Dozens of record highs are poised to be broken from the western U.S. to the plains. For example, temperatures are expected to be well above normal in cities like Denver, Colorado, Dallas, Texas, Sacramento, California, Portland, Oregon, and Flagstaff, Arizona. In some places, temps could even reach triple digits. Meanwhile, the wildfire risk is still high around much of the U.S., from New Mexico to the Carolinas, and that's expected to stick around, possibly for weeks. The genetic testing company 23andMe has filed for bankruptcy and is looking for a buyer. The company is widely known for its at-home DNA testing kit that lets people spit into test tubes to get answers about their ancestry. But it's been struggling financially. When the company first went public, it was valued at more than $6 billion. Today, its shares are nearly worthless. The issue is there's not a lot of incentive for people to test their DNA more than once, so the company has had a tough time finding steady revenue. And now the company's financial issues have sparked a big question for its 15 million customers. If the company sells, what does that mean for all the genetic information 23andMe is storing? Well, just like the company, the data is basically up for sale to the highest bidder. But 23andMe says customers can still delete their data now and their accounts. The company says doing that will opt customers out of any research, and their samples will be discarded. Tesla owners have been trading in their vehicles at record rates ever since Tesla's CEO joined the White House. At least that's according to an analysis from the car shopping website Edmunds. As we've mentioned, there have been waves of protests targeting Tesla facilities, and Tesla vehicles, stores, and charging stations have been spray-painted, keyed, set on fire, and even shot at. So a lot of owners say they'd rather just sell than risk becoming a victim. Meanwhile, Tesla is facing new competition from other EV makers. Just this week, the Chinese automaker BYD announced its sales last year surpassed $100 billion. And with that, it beat out Tesla's revenue for the first time. BYD could keep gaining, too, since it's unveiled some upgrades. Also this week, the company said its new EV chargers can add nearly 250 miles of range to a vehicle in just 5 minutes, the same amount of time it might take you to fill up an empty gas tank. That said, BYD still doesn't sell passenger cars in the U.S. because of tariffs, but it's been making big inroads into markets across Europe, Asia, and Australia. President Trump's official portrait in Colorado's state capitol is being taken down, but it doesn't really have anything to do with politics. The issue is Trump didn't like how it made him look and demanded it be removed. Colorado Republicans actually raised more than $10,000 during the president's first term to commission the oil painting, and it's been hanging ever since, alongside other paintings of American presidents. But this week, Trump claimed it looked so bad that he believes it was purposely distorted. He also says the artist must have lost her talent as she got older, since the portrait she did of President Obama was more flattering. Back when Trump's portrait was first unveiled, the artist said she believed her Trump painting showed confidence, courage, and purpose. But so far, she has not commented about her work being taken down. It's likely that spot on the wall won't be empty for long. A Colorado Republican leader says he's formally requested the portrait be replaced by one that depicts the president's contemporary likeness. Some of the biggest names in comedy gathered in Washington, D.C. this week to honor Conan O'Brien. He received the Mark Twain Prize for American Humor at the Kennedy Center. It was the first big event since President Trump pushed out the Kennedy Center's president, board chair, and board members and replaced them with members of his inner circle. In response, artists resigned from leadership roles and canceled gigs. But none of that stopped the celebration for O'Brien. He was joined by fellow comedians like Adam Sandler, Will Ferrell, Stephen Colbert, John Mulaney, Sarah Silverman, and many more. And quite a few of them addressed the shakeup behind the scenes. For example, David Letterman said it was the most entertaining gathering of the resistance ever. O'Brien himself is famously apolitical, but during his acceptance speech, he quoted Mark Twain in saying, "Patriotism is supporting your country all the time and your government when it deserves it." The whole show is coming to Netflix in May. That's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Trivia Tuesday, when we ask a different trivia question every week. But first, this episode is sponsored by Hiya Health. Whether my kiddo is in an eat anything phase or buttered noodles only phase, I at least know Hiya's best-selling children's vitamins are helping to fill gaps in his diet and support his growing body and brain no matter what. I started giving him Hiya vitamins right when he turned 2, and now at 3.5 years old, he's still loving them as part of his morning routine. So much so that we've also added in Hiya's Kids Probiotic along the way. I love that Hiya is made with 0 sugar, tastes great, and that every batch is third-party tested for heavy metals, so I know they're safe and nutritious. And if you're tired of battling with your kids to eat their greens, Hiya now has Kids Daily Greens Plus Superfoods, a chocolate-flavored greens powder designed specifically for kids, packed with more than 55 whole food ingredients to support brain power, development, and digestion. Just scoop, shake, and sip with milk or any non-dairy beverage for a delicious and nutritious boost your kids will actually enjoy. We've worked out a special deal with Hiya for their best-selling children's vitamin. Receive 50% off your first order. To claim this deal, you must go to hiyahealth.com/newsworthy. This deal is not available on their regular website. So go to hiyahealth.com/newsworthy and get your kids the full body nourishment they need to grow into healthy adults. Now back to Trivia Tuesday. Today's trivia question is, why are soap operas called soap operas? You can play along with us in our weekly roundup email that comes out each Friday. As for last week's trivia question, what animal gains up to 10 pounds an hour as a baby? The answer is the blue whale. Yep, it can gain more than 250 pounds in a single day. But it might not even be that noticeable since at birth, the blue whale weighs anywhere from 5,000 to 6,000 pounds. Then it grows up. And an adult blue whale typically ends up weighing between 200,000 to 300,000 pounds, making it the largest animal on Earth. It's not the only animal that grows at a rapid rate, though. The red kangaroo starts out the size of a bean and grows to be about 180 pounds, an increase of about 96,000 times its birth weight. Egg layers put up even more impressive numbers, like the ocean sunfish that hatches from an egg that's only about 1.3 millimeters and then grows to be 1,200 pounds. In other words, it becomes about 60 million times larger over its lifetime. Thank you so much for joining us to get caught up on the news today. We'll be back with more to know tomorrow. Until then, have a great day.